Hello, good evening, everybody, and welcome to QCafe here at Muzen Core Consulting. It's another Wednesday evening here at Muzen, and we're so excited to bring to you our guest speaker for this evening. Our guest is a distinguished John Maxwell certified coach and trainer. She is a distinguished Toastmaster under Toastmasters International Education and Leadership Program. She provides coaching and mentoring in professional and personal development, focusing on effective communication and leaders with the intention of helping young professionals explore their full potential and succeed in personal and professional life. At the same time, she provides her expertise in education and higher education sector intermittently by working as a consultant and at development organizations. She holds a master's degree in education leadership from University of Leicester, UK. She has published research papers and a book on various policy issues in education sector in Asia. Without further ado, allow me to introduce and welcome to you on our virtual stage, Miss Ameesha Wijayatunga. Hi, Ameesha. Good evening. You're on mute.
Hi, good evening. I think you can hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you now, Ameesha. How are you?
I'm fine. I just arrived in Philippines just a week ago.
Wow. So how's your stay so far?
It is good actually because I'm back after 2 years. So it has been very busy.
Yes, I can only imagine. We're excited for you. We're excited to have you here at Muzen Core, and we're really eager to learn all about effective communication. So take it away, Ameesha.
Thank you. I will just share my screen first.
There you go. We can see it now.
All right. Okay. So good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for having me here. And let's begin with an understanding what effective communication is. What is actually effective communication? The definition says effective communication is a communication between two or more persons wherein the intended message is successfully delivered, received, and understood. In other words, we can say the communication is said to be effective when all the parties, both sender and the receiver in the communication, assign similar meanings to the message and listen carefully to what all have been said and make the sender feel heard and understood. If we consider in the business context, communication is effective if the information shared among the company employees contributes towards the organization's commercial success. Communication in your workplace. How does communication take place in your workplace? In a workplace, there are different types of communication. It can be conversations, interviews, or calls, which we call verbal communication. Verbal communication can be intrapersonal, where we have conversations with ourselves, or it can be interpersonal, where we have one-on-one conversation with other employees and our team members, etc. It can be a small group communication such as press conferences, board meetings, team meetings, or verbal communication can also take place in public in the form of public speeches and presentations. The second type I would just mention, the communication in the workplace is also non-verbal. Non-verbal communication can be your tone of voice, facial expressions, body language, and we have written communication in the form of letters, emails, memos, reports, and also visual communication such as videos, photographs, movies, etc. Now, how to become an effective communicator? We have to know 7 C's. To be an effective communicator, we need to understand 7 important principles of communication. We call them 7 C's. The 7 C's was actually introduced in 1952 by University of Wisconsin professor Scott Cutlip and Alan Center. With time, the original list is being modified and unattributed and used in communications, business, marketing, and public relations books. Let's look at one by one. The first one, clarity. Now, if your writing is clear, your audience is much more likely to understand and act on your message. On the other hand, if your reader has to wade through irrelevant information or unnecessary jargon, then they probably have to struggle to get through your message. Now, you have to remember to start with a clear communication goal and use concrete, precise language to get your point across. The second is coherence. The whole point behind your message will be useless when you are not coherent. You need to have a good understanding of what goes where and what comes when. Coherent communication is logical and easy to understand. The third C, concreteness. When the message that you want to convey is concrete, supported by facts for enhanced credibility that helps your audience to understand better, your audience, your team, or it can be your clients, will have a clear picture of what you're trying to tell them. So to make your message concrete, your argument should be supported by factual material that includes data, figures, that will not leave space for the audience to imagine different things. This helps to mitigate the risk of misunderstanding. Our fourth C is conciseness. Conciseness means wordiness. That is, communicating what you want to convey in least possible words. As George Orwell wrote in his essay Politics and the English Language, if it is possible to cut a word out, always cut it out. Your goal here is to communicate your message as quickly and directly as possible. By conciseness, you will save your readers time. The fifth one, consistency. The choice of words matter when you are communicating at work. Your words shouldn't leave your team confused. You need to communicate your message in the least possible words, have the consistency of tone, voice, and content. To keep communication in your workplace effective and consistent, you can create a company style guide that align with your culture, values, and voice, tone, and internal environment of your organization. And next one we go to completeness. The communication must be complete. It should convey all facts required by the audience. The sender of the message must take into consideration the receiver's mindset and convey the message accordingly. Complete communication helps in better decision making by the audience, your readers or your receivers of message, as they get all desired and crucial information. Therefore, effective communication involves giving a whole picture to your audience. The last one, courteousness. Now, let's keep it positive. Being courteous is a necessity in a corporate setting as anywhere else. Your team is working together to achieve the same goal of success and growth. Therefore, inside jokes, insults, or an aggressive tone work against teamwork. Courtesy implies taking into consideration both viewpoints as well as feelings of the receiver of the message. Courteous messages are positive, shows respect for the receiver, and they are unbiased. Now, let us just look at the important components of effective communication. Now, if you look at this pie chart, you will see more than 90% of the impact of your communication will depend on how you present your message and what your audience will see. To make that 90% effective, in order to make our communication effective, we need to be mindful on our words, our voice, and also our body language. Let's just talk about it. Your words. Now, using words is very important, and words you select must be easily understandable. And pronunciation, especially in the verbal communication, pronunciation should be correct. Mispronunciation often leads to misunderstanding of the messages. The sounds need to be correct in the sequence of a word. Next is your voice. Your volume of your voice. When it comes to verbal communication, some people speak too loudly. Some, on the other hand, speak very low voice that they can be barely heard. Voice loudness or volume should be appropriate in strength and intensity and should be varied to add emphasis and dramatic impact to your speeches or presentations. If you want to communicate with your audience effectively, you must project your voice. Pitch. The highness or lowness in the sound of your voice is known as pitch. When you speak about something, your voice should convey life, color, and melody. Good speakers vary their speech to express emotions and conviction. If your voice is shrill or flat, then you should work on your pitch. The third one, important thing, voice quality. The essence of your speaking sound is your voice quality. It expresses emotional color. If your voice is full, clear, enthusiastic, then you can create an unbreakable bond of friendship and acceptance with your audience. On the other hand, if your voice quality is nasal, breathy, harsh, or lifeless, then you should concentrate on improving it. Rate. Rate is the speed. You should avoid speaking either too slow or too fast because either you distort your articulation. Limit changes of pitch and also alter your voice quality. When a speaker speaks too slow, listeners must struggle to pay attention. People think at a much faster rate than the flow of speech, and overly slow speech makes it monotonous to listen. On the other hand, a fast speaker also may shorten sounds and fail to vary intensity, volume, and pitch. Most effective speaking rate is between 120 to 160 words per minute. So you can easily keep within this optimum range by speaking rapidly enough to avoid being bored, yet slowly enough to be understandable. Your body language. Your body can be an effective tool for adding emphasis and clarity to your words. It can also be a powerful instrument for convincing the audience of your sincerity, passion, and commitment. A speaker's stance, facial expressions, hand gestures, effective movement of the entire body communicate more to an audience than actual spoken words. There are three general categories when we speak about the body language: facial expressions, gestures, and whole body movement. Facial expressions. A speaker's face communicates more clearly than any other part of the body. We should learn to match facial expressions to spoken words. Now, if a speaker talks about a tragedy, but her face carries an expression of joy, then your audience will be confused. And also, eye contact is important. It is an expression of politeness and respect. On the other hand, gestures are made with hands and arms, mostly. Conversely, strong, purposeful, and complementary gestures strengthen your message and add interest to your presentation. Whole body movement. A speaker's stance, posture, and movement tell the audience whether the speaker is confident, alert, and in command of the situation. Especially when in a presentation or speaking to a group, a relaxed, balanced speaking stance provides a solid starting point from which to gestures or move in any direction. Now, when in communicating, there are barriers as well. And let us now look at the barriers we have in the workplace that hinder effective communication. There are 4 types of barriers, as you can see. The most common one is the semantic barriers. The semantic barriers refer to the misunderstandings between the sender and the receiver that can arise due to different meanings of words or other symbols used when communication. Semantic barriers usually happen when the information is not in the simple language and contains words or symbols that have a multiple meanings. The second type is the organizational barriers. which means the hindrances in the flow of information among the employees that might result in a commercial failure of an organization. For example, organizational rules and policies, status and hierarchical positions in the organization, organizational structure and facilities can sometimes act as huge barriers in communication in organizations. The third type, psychological or emotional barriers, refer to psychological state of the people involved, that is opinions, attitudes, mental status, consciousness, emotions that deeply affect the ability to communicate. Result of these conditions can be lack of attention, loss by transmission, poor retention, etc. And the last type is personal. What are personal barriers? The personal barriers are the personal factors of the sender and the receiver that will act as hindrances in the communication process. These factors indicate the life experiences, attitudes, behavior that hinders the ability of a person to communicate. Most common personal barriers we experience are selective attention, lack of knowledge in the subject, lack of vocabulary, and lack of listening skills. Now, why do we need effective communication in a workplace? There are numerous benefits of effective communication. You'd be surprised how effective communication can bring a big change in the workplace. Let's learn how it will benefit you. Effective communication eliminates misunderstandings, ambiguities, and questions. It will provide a healthy workplace culture and also non-threatening work environment. When you can communicate effectively, the conflicts also can be resolved easily. Effective communication provides clear direction, promotes desire to work, results in high team spirit. Effective communication fosters a more productive and talented workforce, therefore, strong teamwork. Now, when all this happens, employees will have a high job satisfaction and also increased self-esteem, which will ultimately lead an organization to achieve success. So let us now conclude this effective communication presentation, because we are just running out of time. So we can conclude that effective communication is compulsory for everyone. Good communication is an essential element when it comes to communication in your workplace. Effective communication always brings work satisfaction, eliminate misunderstandings, ambiguities, and questions, and builds a safe place for people to work and think creatively. Therefore, when you communicate, keep in mind to choose simple and correct words, be aware of your body language, listen actively, that means being completely present of what the speaker is trying to impart, give your whole attention, and deliver with confidence. You need to develop a strong delivery by being patient, kind to yourself, and slowing down. And also don't forget to maintain eye contact and smile. And always remember to keep it positive.
There you go. Wow, that was a very short but very, very direct to the point presentation. Thank you so much for sharing all of those, Amisha. So let's dive right into it. We have a lot of questions here that we would like to for you to answer. First being, can culture, gender, nationality, or social class have an effect on communication?
Well, I would say culture plays a major role in our communication. Communication is a process of exchanging information, and cultural characteristics, of course, affect on how people exchange information. Their beliefs, habits, or behavioral norms can be different from each other. So the way they dress, their freedom to express their views, whether they are accessible to internet, technology, information, all these affect the way they communicate. So similar to that, nationality, social class, and also the gender can also certainly come into play at times when we communicate.
Did it ever occur to you that you had a hard time communicating because of your culture or your cultural background? Or perhaps, let's say, for example, was there a specific situation wherein, because of any of this, we have mentioned culture, gender, nationality, social class, if there's any situation where you had a hard time because of all these, and how did you handle it?
Yes, I would say culture and my gender sometimes affect me, because culture is that I grew up in South Asia, where the girls were supposed to not to be very forward, but it's sometimes like when I moved to Philippines, it's not like that. The
Yeah.
culture is totally different. So I learned to be independent. Of course, like at the beginning, it was very difficult for me because it's a totally different culture. So sometimes when we talk to people, also we sometimes we are reluctant to just talk at first. But then eventually, you know, when you when you work with the same the Filipino culture, when you work, because especially when I work in a place where we have like multiple culture,
Yes.
people with multiple cultures. So then it gave me an opportunity to think independently out of the box. And gender also the same. The girls, I mean, from the beginning, our culture would say girls should be like this
Yes.
and boys should be like this.
Yes.
So in communication, of course, I have just handled these things. And I think with time and also with maturity, I have, with the experiences, of course. And I think I have handled that well, I suppose.
Yeah. It's quite hard if you're coming from a very conservative culture, right?
Right. Yes.
Here in the Philippines, it's still somewhat practiced. I mean, at least the older generations, they're still very conservative. Unlike the Generation Z right now that we have, they're very much outspoken. So, next question we have here is that has the development of the internet and social media caused a change in the way we communicate?
Well, social media has absolutely changed the way we communicate. Now, messages can travel around the world in a matter of seconds and sometimes reach an audience far larger than any single newspaper could ever hope to reach. Now, social media is very fast, frequent, and brief when it comes to messaging. But when it comes to truly understanding the messages, then there can be misunderstandings as well.
Yes.
Especially like if it's more complex, and also there can be a lot of fake news. So we
Yeah.
have to be mindful when taking the uh, information
Yeah.
from the social media and also internet. And we are more and more reading text, listening, watching, and participating online. And Facebook and other social media actually has positive impacts as well. It has
Yeah.
helped me to stay connected with friends and family who live distantly, and
Yeah.
made connections with people all over the world. And also platforms like LinkedIn helps you to be in contact with professionals, find matching jobs, get education. And people today are reaching out to others to help with their problems also via social media.
True.
And also, like during the pandemic, we used Skype, FaceTime, and Zoom, and they all allowed us to easily see and contact with others. So
That is true.
yeah, there are very positive sides of it.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, a lot of information in social media and internet, in one click, you can read everything and you can
Yes.
save time. You don't have to go to a library to refer to books now. But however, we need to be cautious when using internet,
True.
as there can be many false data, and also it is good to use it, but do not let it use you. So that is
Yeah,
one thing that we need to remember, because
that's a
if you
very good
are getting
point.
addicted, it is not
Yes,
that easy. Yeah.
that is true. Amisha, have you ever encountered someone who is talking to you with just using emojis? I
Yeah, sometimes, yes. Mostly now that, yeah,
Right. This is somehow I call this an upgrade in communicating, because we are no longer boxed with just using words. We can even use photos, emojis, gifs, stickers to communicate, to converse, or convey what we want to tell other people. Like for example, when I'm really happy, I just send a very cute emoji.
that's true. Yes,
Yeah, so I think
absolutely.
these are one of the things that the internet has brought us. So next question here is there a way to measure or assess effective communication?
Yes, I believe we can measure or assess anything in life, even life we can assess.
Mm-hmm.
So you can assess the effectiveness by the responses or the feedback that you receive from your audience. When
Mm-hmm.
we conduct public lectures or presentations to a group, then we can get the feedback now using Google Forms. It is a very easy way of getting the feedback.
Yes.
And or printed evaluation that like we used to do in the past, to get assess the effectiveness of what we
Flyers.
communicated to our audience. Yes. And also 360-degree assessment you can use in your workplace, and it
Mhm.
is a good way to assess how you are actually communicating as compared to how you think you are doing.
Yeah,
So
because it's different, right?
yes,
How we think it and how we are actually doing it,
right.
right?
So yeah, that is why the two-way communication is very important, and
Mm-hmm.
feedback is essential for ourselves also, for the development of ourselves. Like then
Yes.
when we get the feedback, then we know our drawbacks and we can improve ourselves.
Yeah,
So
that is
yes,
true. All right. Next is there a way we can cultivate a culture of communicating effectively in a workplace?
yes. As I just mentioned before, organizational barriers. I think in
Mm-hmm.
the workplace, it is the most, I think, uh, most important thing that we don't realize, but that hinders the communication, the effectiveness of the communication. So uh, in a workplace, I think even though yes, of course, that there should be hierarchy, and but that hierarchy, I think it's mostly the leaders should be able to understand,
Yes.
and they should be able to talk to their employees, and also should be ready to listen. That is the most important thing. And sometimes, like when you discuss questions with your employees, then it is for the employees, they really feel that they are also kind of recognized, because
Yes.
yeah. And then you don't really, as a boss, or as I would say as a leader, you don't
Yeah.
need to know the answers at
All
that
the
point.
time.
You can
Yes.
always just say, okay, yes, at the moment I don't think I can help you with that. I can just always refer
Get
to
back.
something
Yes.
or maybe get information and get back to you. So that is something that, so also important, the tone of voice,
Yes.
everything. Yeah, and when writing emails, the superiors, like when writing emails, have to be polite, because uh, at this time, during this pandemic, we have just passed 2 years, and all of us are in a very tough time,
Yes.
challenging times. So it is very important for leaders to consider, and they need not to kind of they should be genuine also, and they should be honest, empathetic, in order to maintain that positive and healthy relationship with his team members. And I would just say our relationships can be nourished
Yeah.
or die in the sea of communication.
That
So
is true.
therefore, yeah, so we have to be mindful when communicating with others, the leaders with the team members to team members, and clients, everybody, like with everyone. It has to be a positive relationship, and positive relationship is always maintained with effective communication.
All right. I see. I have one bonus question for you. I want you to react on this statement that I have read on the internet. It's about communication as well, and it says, "I am only responsible for what I say and not for what you understand." What can you say about this when someone tells you that I am only responsible for what I say and not for how you understand it?
Yes, actually, as I said in the presentation, that is also the psychological barriers. Like all of us just go through different experiences. So perhaps the receiver of the message might be in a very different kind of situation in life. So of course, one can say that I'm not responsible of what you understood, but it's
Yes,
just what I said.
yes,
But in an effective communication, if you are an effective communicator, then you have to always give way to your audience
yes.
or your the receiver of the message. So that is your
Yeah,
priority. Yeah.
that is really true because I think one of the main things on why you communicate is so that you can be understood, right? So if
Yes.
we are
Yes.
sending out misleading messages, then we are responsible for that technically,
Right.
right? So
Yes.
I hope you guys have we have earned the privilege of your time tonight as you have joined me and Ameesha as she discussed effective communication. I really believe that one of the challenges as well that we have here and when it comes to communicating is also language barrier, because let's say for example in my experience I am a native Filipino speaker, Tagalog. So whenever I converse in English, I used to translate from Filipino to English before I speak. So it's really hard because sometimes, right, we buckle, we are lost for words, or maybe perhaps we're too nervous that we have to speak in all English conversations. So I think these are the things that we need to overcome. And the deck that Ameesha has shared with us earlier tonight was really very direct to the point. I love personally the 7 C's that you have discussed because they're really the very basic things that you need to have a good foundation of so that you can effectively communicate. So I do hope guys you took a screenshot of that. Don't worry, this video, this talk is available to be watched on replay. So you can always share it with your friends as well. So once again, my name is Ninang Kate, and thank you so much for joining us here at Muzencore. Ameesha, thank you for coming and joining us and sharing with us your expertise on effective communication. So once again, this has been Q Cafe. Um, Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our YouTube channel so that we can grow our community more. I know we have migrated from our Facebook page to our YouTube live. I hope you still continue to support us and, share the word and continue with our weekly online tambayan here at Muzenkor. Maraming salamat po and we'll see you again next week. Same time, same place here at Muzen. Bye everyone. Have a great week ahead.